You were in Pennsylvania for Mr. Kohberger's arrest, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you watched the preparation for service of the arrest warrant?
How do you mean?
Well, maybe I should ask this more open-ended. Tell us about your arrival in Pennsylvania in time-wise to his arrest, time frame of his arrest.
I believe we arrived there, if memory serves, about 7 p.m. on the 29th, and I think I get my dates right here. We observed final preparations for the SRT operation that was going to take place, and then we being myself and Detective Gilbertson from ISP, drove to a separate Pennsylvania State Police barracks to await the arrival of Mr. Kohberger.
When you were observing preparations, what were you observing?
I believe we observed their final tactical brief for SRT, and that was about it.
Can you explain what that was, what the preparations were that they were making when they were doing that tactical brief?
I can give you a general overview as best I got. So they had their entire SRT that was going to be conducting the operation present.
For the record, SRT is
A special response team, usually what it stands for, Your Honor. So they were doing their final preparations, going over their approach, team member assignments, so on and so forth. This was all done via basically a briefing in front of everybody.
And do you recall that the preparations included that in preparation they were going to knock and announce in execution
I believe that was brought up, yes, ma'am.
of the warrant? Okay. And while you were there, did you go into and have were you given a tour, or did you drive into the gated community of Mr. Kohberger and see where he was living?
No, ma'am.
You never went in or around his home?
No, ma'am.
When the execution of the arrest was happening, did you have the ability to listen in any way?
The only ability that we had at the time was a very choppy drone feed. We were driving at the time it happened, and that was the only communication we had.
And so how is that choppy drone feed being communicated to you?
Via cell phone.
So can you explain that? Like, who's the person communicating with you about the drone? I just don't understand.
So essentially, it's a drone operator with their SRT. I don't remember how it was conveyed, a link of some sort. They dropped a drone, it took off. I got the link so we could essentially just watch a live feed of what the drone was seeing, and that was it.
Do you know if that live feed was recorded?
I do not know, ma'am.
Did you record the while that was happening? Did you create a recording?
No, ma'am.
What is a Bearcat?
Bearcat's an armored vehicle used in SWAT operations.
And do you know what role the Bearcat? Describe that vehicle again.
So they're usually built on, I think it's like a Ford F-250 chassis. So it's a pickup cab essentially, but it's got a large box compartment in the back, for lack of a better term. Usually has portholes on the sides. It's highly up-armored to protect the occupants, being SWAT operators. And they usually use them as an approach vehicle, so they have a covered location to deploy from.
Is it like a retrofitted military piece of machinery?
No, ma'am.
It's specifically a law enforcement piece of machinery?
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounds like it's really big.
It depends on what you're comparing it to. I'd say it's no bigger than, if you were to have a pickup camper on the back of an F-250, something like that.
And what's your understanding of where that Bearcat was parked for the arrest?
I believe the Bearcat, if memory serves, drove up the driveway and just parked in front of the house.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 5. to the motion to suppress, and it was attached to 119 Lambsden.
All right, this is marked with an exhibit sticker S5. Title of the document is Pennsylvania State Police. Heading with essentially a letter directed to Detective Payne.
Detective Payne, can you explain what that letter is?
That's a justification for reasoning for amending the original plan for knock and announce to a hasty knock and announce and quicker entry into the Kohberger home.
When did you receive that?
I believe this was recently. I don't remember what date.
When you say recently, was it received in response to prepare for today's suppression hearing?
I believe so.
Do you know why Mr. Lang didn't date the letter?
I have to ask him, ma'am.
And so in that correspondence, he explains that the knock and announce was shortened to announcing from the Bearcat with immediate forced entry.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you present when Detective Gilbert Mirandized Mr. Kohberger at the station?
Detective Gilbertson?
Gilbertson, sorry, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And that took place after Mr. Kohberger was first seized in his home, right?
Correct.
That also took place after he was transported in the back of a police car to the station, right?
Correct.
You noted in your report that Detective Gilbertson had a recorder in his pocket at the time of the interview.
I believe so.
Were there any recordings that took place at the Kohberger home when entry was made into the house?
I do not know.
Where was Mr. Kohberger's car parked at the time of his arrest?
It was in the garage.
Was it later seized pursuant to a search warrant from that garage?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you said that the iPad receipt was found in the car, is that the car that you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.